This video is going to cover the last part of vision, which is going to be, as you can see, blindness, and how we can treat that. So a previous video looked at things like color blindness, nearsightedness, farsightedness, and so forth. And this is the most severe version of a deficiency in vision. So blindness is defined as an individual who has a visual acuity worse than 3/60. So we had 20/20 is what we consider normal vision. 360 is where we have that cutoff line for blindness. So if you're worse than 360, meaning that you can see at 3 feet what we would consider normal at 60 feet, then you are considered blind. And I mean, that's going to be significant. I believe that technically myself would be considered someone who is technically legally blind. I know I am not allowed to operate my vehicle without my glasses. Not that I would ever try, but I'm pretty sure my visual acuity is down in that region. So this is mainly going to be caused by refraction errors. So what am I talking about with refraction errors? So that's the stuff we were talking about in the previous video with nearsightedness, farsightedness, and astigmatism. So these problems with the focusing of the light either in front of or in back of, or mixing the images where you get multiple copies of the image in front of the retina. So any of these, if they're severe enough, can lead to blindness. Obviously, there are visual issues that can, there we go, that can actually lead to complete blindness. But this is just talking about if you have visual acuity and you can still see, but it's worse because of these refraction errors than 360, then you can be considered blind. The other thing that you can have that can cause blindness is cataracts. So cataracts, these are where you get a clouding of the lens in the eye, and this can be caused by multiple different things. So you can get cataracts from diseases, from age, genetic disorders. So there's lots of things that can create these clouded lenses. And I'm going to give you a warning, there's a close-up shot of eyes. I know sometimes that disturbs people. So here's the difference between what happens with cataracts and what is normal. So with a normal eye, that light would come in, get focused on the retina like we would expect, normal vision. With someone who has cataracts, because that lens is cloudy, the light gets super refracted. So basically what happens is you get scattering, just like when we were talking about the light chapter, when you get light coming into, say, our atmosphere, you know, those light beams all start to spread out and scatter. And that's what's happening here. The light starts scattering and reflecting and refracting off of those particles in the lens. And you can see that it's, instead of focusing, it spreads that light out onto the retina and can create absolutely no image or a very, very, very blurry image, making it basically impossible for the individual to see. So how can this be fixed? Well, there is the possibility that it may be able to be fixed with lenses and glasses. However, if it's too severe, there are other ways to fix it. So with cataracts, you can actually replace the lenses with artificial lenses. This is kind of cool. My parents actually have had this done, and I think my grandparents actually have had this done too. Nowadays, this is fairly easy procedure. What they do is they use, I believe it's ultrasound, something like that, to break up the old lens and basically suck it out. And then they actually have the artificial lens rolled up, very tightly folded up, and they inject it into the space where it's supposed to be. When they push it in, it actually unfolds. If they need to, they can help it out a little bit, but it unfolds. That way they don't have to do what they used to do. Because what they used to have to do is actually remove the cornea, fold it back, and then remove the lens and put the new one in. So this new version of cataract surgery doesn't take very long comparatively, much less invasive, and most people are able to see within a day or so. So it's a very neat way now that we are able to do that. Individuals who the vision loss is very severe to completely blind, there is actually something that's being tested, which is really neat. And that is what we call visual prosthesis. So they are currently being tested, and hopefully in the near future, we'll see these more widely used. So this is only going to work though where the blindness is due to loss of rods and cones. So there are other ways for blindness to occur, but if the rods and cones have been lost due to damage and so forth, then one of these will work because the connections are still there to be able to do the processing by the optic nerve in the brain. Other types of blindness can be caused by, for example, damage to the optic nerve. If the optic nerve is damaged, this kind of visual prosthesis won't work. So how are these guys working? They work by implanting electrodes behind the retina. I know that sounds kind of weird, but what happens is it's got the electrode behind the retina, and that has a little processor attached to it. And then the individual wears a pair of glasses that have little cameras in them. So little cameras on either side. And those cameras are going to obviously record images. And those images, are going to be relayed to a digital processor in the glasses. And that processor then sends the signal to the processor on the electrodes that are implanted behind the retina. That will fire, send that information to the optic nerve, which will then send the that electric signal through the neurons to the central nervous system. So these are showing promise. They seem to be working for, again, individuals where the blindness is just due to those loss of rods and cones, not where there's other damage in the visual system, as far as like the nerves and so forth. The individuals aren't seeing color because there's no way to interpret the color, but they are able to see black and white images, and they're able to see them fairly clearly using this system. So there is promise for helping at least some conditions related to blindness that we haven't been able to treat up to this point. All right, so our next video is going to get into hearing as our next sense.